If you tried to buy silver this morning and your card was declined, you need to stop what you are doing and listen to this, because what you just experienced was not a glitch. It was not a fraud alert. It was not your bank protecting you. What you just experienced was the first wave of capital controls being deployed in real time against retail precious metals buyers, and nobody is talking about it. Let me paint the picture for you. You are sitting at your computer. Maybe it is 9 a.m. Maybe it is midnight. You are on APMX. You are on JM Bullion. You are on SD Bullion. You find a product. Let's say it is a tube of silver eagles, 20 coins. Spot price is $30. Premium is $8 per coin. You are paying $760 total. You have the money. You have $2,000 in your checking account. You click checkout. You enter your card details. You hit submit, and then you see it. Transaction declined. Insufficient funds? No. You refresh your bank app. The balance is still there. You try again. Declined. You call your bank. You sit on hold for 18 minutes. Finally, someone picks up. And they tell you, quote, "This transaction has been flagged as high risk. Precious metals purchases are subject to enhanced review." Enhanced review. High risk. These are the words. These are the exact words they are using. And when you ask why, they say it is policy. When you ask whose policy, they say compliance. When you ask what compliance, they hang up. This is not isolated. This is not anecdotal. This is systematic. This is happening at Chase. This is happening at Bank of America. This is happening at Wells Fargo. This is happening at regional banks. This is happening at credit unions. And the pattern is identical. The transaction is declined. The reason is vague. The category is flagged. Precious metals, bullion dealers, coin shops. Even peer-to-peer silver purchases on PayPal are being frozen mid-transaction with no explanation. And the mainstream financial media is silent. CNBC is not covering this. Bloomberg is not covering this. The Wall Street Journal is not covering this. Because if they covered this, they would have to admit what is actually happening. They would have to admit that the banks know something you do not know. They know the dollar is dying. And they do not want you to escape. Let me give you the timeline. Let me show you exactly when this started. Because this did not happen overnight. This was a coordinated rollout. And the data proves it. On November 14th, 2024, the first reports started appearing on Reddit. Users on Wall Street Silver. Users on Silverbugs. They were posting screenshots. My card was declined on AppMex. My card was declined on JM Bullion. The comments were dismissive. It is a fraud alert. Call your bank. But then more posts. November 15th, November 16th, November 18th, different banks, different platforms, same result, declined. By December, the volume of complaints had tripled. And by January 2025, we are seeing systematic declines across every major bullion dealer in the United States. Now let me show you the smoking gun, because this is not just about credit cards being declined. This is about the category codes. Every merchant has a category code. It is called an MCC, Merchant Category Code. When you buy silver from a dealer, that transaction is tagged with MCC 5094, Precious Stones and Metals. For decades, this was a neutral category. It was treated like any other retail purchase. But sometime in late 2024, the banks reclassified it. They moved it into the same risk tier as gambling, as adult entertainment, as high-risk foreign transactions. Why? Because they do not want capital flowing out of fiat and into hard assets. They do not want you converting dollars into silver. Because every ounce of silver you buy is a vote of no confidence in the Federal Reserve note, and they cannot allow that. Let me walk you through the mechanics. Let me show you exactly how this works, because this is not a bug. This is a feature. When you attempt to purchase silver online, your bank runs the transaction through a risk algorithm. This algorithm checks the MCC code. If it detects 5094, it flags the transaction. But it does not stop there. It cross-references your purchase history. Have you bought silver before? How much? How often? If you are a repeat buyer, the algorithm escalates the flag. It classifies you as a capital flight risk. And then it declines the transaction, automatically. No human review, no phone call, just declined. And here is the sick part. The algorithm does not tell you why. It just says insufficient funds or contact your bank. But your funds are not insufficient. Your account is fine. The problem is the category. The problem is the asset class. The problem is that you are trying to leave the system. Now, let me give you the numbers. Let me show you the scale of what we are talking about. Because this is not affecting 10 people. This is not affecting 100 people. This is affecting tens of thousands of transactions per day. AppMex alone processes an average of 12,000 orders per day. Let us assume that 10% of those orders are being declined due to this new policy. That is 1,200 transactions per day being blocked. Multiply that by 30 days. That is 36,000 transactions per month. Now add JM Bullion, add SD Bullion, add Money Metals, add Provident, add Silver Gold Bull. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of transactions being blocked across the industry every single month. And this is just the United States. Reports are now coming in from Canada, from the UK, from Australia. This is a coordinated global effort to prevent retail capital flight into precious metals. And the banks have a cover story. They always have a cover story. The official line is anti-money laundering, AML compliance, know your customer, KYC regulations. They say they are protecting you from fraud. They say they are preventing illicit transactions. But let me ask you a question. If this is about fraud prevention, why are they not blocking transactions at jewelry stores? Why are they not blocking transactions at pawn shops? Why are they specifically targeting online bullion dealers? I will tell you why. Because online bullion dealers are where retail investors go to convert fiat into physical metal. That is the difference. When you buy a gold necklace at a jewelry store, you are buying a consumer good. You are not exiting the system. But when you buy a tube of silver eagles from APMEX, you are making a monetary decision. You are saying, I do not trust the dollar, and that is what they cannot tolerate. Now let me connect the dots. Let me show you why this is happening right now, because the timing is not random. This is not a coincidence. This is a response to a crisis that is unfolding behind the scenes. Look at the repo market. On January 2nd, 2025, the Federal Reserve injected $420 billion into the overnight repo market. $420 billion. In one day. Why? Because the banks are running out of liquidity. They are desperate for collateral. And what is the best collateral? Treasury bonds. But Treasury bonds are yielding 4.5%. The 10-year is at 4.7%. The 30-year is at 4.9%. These are levels we have not seen since 2008. And when yields go up, bond prices go down, which means the value of bank collateral is collapsing in real time. And the Fed knows this. The banks know this. So what do? They inject liquidity. They print more dollars. They flood the system with cash. But that makes the problem worse. Because every dollar they print devalues the existing supply. And smart money knows this. Smart money is trying to get out. Smart money is buying gold. Smart money is buying silver. And the banks are trying to stop them. Let me give you a historical parallel. Let me show you that this has happened before. In 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. This order made it illegal for American citizens to own gold. You had to turn it in. You had to exchange your gold for paper dollars at $20.67 per ounce. If you refused, you faced 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Why did FDR do this? Because the Federal Reserve was running out of gold reserves. They needed to confiscate private gold to back the currency, and they did it under the cover of the Great Depression. They said it was for economic recovery. They said it was for the public good. But it was theft. It was the largest wealth transfer in American history. And now, 92 years later, we are seeing the same playbook. They cannot confiscate your silver. Not yet. But they can make it impossible to buy. They can block the transaction. They can freeze the platform. They can shut down the dealers. And that is exactly what they are doing. Now let me show you the geopolitical angle. Because this is not just a domestic story. This is a global story. While American banks are blocking silver purchases, the Chinese government is buying silver by the ton. Let me give you the numbers. In November 2024, China imported 1,300 metric tons of silver. 1,300 metric tons. That is 41.8 million ounces. At $30 per ounce, that is $1.25 billion in physical silver flowing into China in 1 month. And December was even higher. 1,500 metric tons, 48 million ounces, $1.44 billion. Why is China doing this? Because they know what is coming. They know the dollar is going to collapse. They know the petrodollar system is ending, and they are positioning themselves to win the next monetary regime. And that regime is not based on fiat. It is based on commodities. It is based on gold. It is based on silver. It is based on hard assets. And here is the kicker. While China is importing record amounts of silver, the Shanghai Futures Exchange is showing a physical premium over the COMEX paper price. Let me break this down. The COMEX paper price for silver is $30 per ounce. But if you want to take physical delivery in Shanghai, you are paying $33 per ounce. That is a 10% premium. That is a 10% spread between paper and physical, and that spread is widening. In December, the premium was 8%. In January, it is 12%. Why? Because there is more demand for physical silver than there is supply. And the paper market is lying to you. The COMEX is telling you that silver is $30. But in the real world, in the physical world, silver is worth $33, or $35, or $40, depending on where you are and what form you want it in. And the banks know this. And they do not want you to arbitrage the spread. They do not want you to buy at 30 and sell at 35. Because if everyone did that, the paper market would collapse. The COMEX would collapse. And the real price of silver would explode. Let me give you another data point. Let me show you the dealer premiums. Right now, if you go to ApeMex and you try to buy a Silver Eagle, you are paying a $9 premium over spot. Spot is 30. The coin is 39. That is a 30% premium. 30%. In a normal market, premiums are 2 to 3%, maybe 5% in a tight market. But 30%? That is not a premium. That is a shortage. That is a signal that there is no silver. The dealers do not have inventory. The mints are running low. The refiners are backed up, and the banks know this. And that is why they are blocking your purchase. Because if you buy that Silver Eagle at $39, and next month the spot price is $45, you just made money. You just escaped inflation. You just preserved your wealth. And they cannot allow that, because if everyone does that, the system breaks. Now let me address the elephant in the room. Let me address the question you are probably asking. If this is real, why is nobody talking about it? And the answer is simple. Because the people who control the narrative do not want you to know. The mainstream media is owned by the banks, CNBC is owned by Comcast, Bloomberg is owned by Michael Bloomberg, who is a billionaire with deep ties to Wall Street. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp. These are not independent journalists. These are corporate mouthpieces. And their job is not to inform you. Their job is to manage your perception. Their job is to keep you calm. Their job is to keep you in dollars. And if they reported that banks are blocking silver purchases, people would panic. People would rush to buy. And the system would collapse faster. So they stay silent. They ignore the story. And they hope you do not notice. But people are noticing. The data is everywhere. On Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube. People are posting screenshots. People are sharing their stories. My card was declined. My transaction was flagged. My bank said precious metals are high risk. And the pattern is undeniable. This is not a glitch. This is not a fraud alert. This is policy. This is a directive from the top. And the question is, who is giving the directive? Is it the banks themselves? Is it the Federal Reserve? Is it the Treasury Department? Is it the Bank for International Settlements? We do not know, because they are not telling us. But someone made the decision to reclassify precious metals purchases as high risk. Someone made the decision to block these transactions. And that someone has access to the data. They know what we do not know. They know the dollar is in trouble, and they are trying to prevent the stampede. Let me give you a scenario. Let me walk you through what happens next, because this is just the beginning. Right now, they are blocking credit card transactions. But what happens when they start blocking bank transfers? What happens when they start freezing accounts? What happens when they classify precious metals dealers as sanctioned entities? It sounds extreme. It sounds like conspiracy theory. But we have already seen this playbook. In 2013, the Obama administration launched Operation Choke Point. This was a program where the federal government pressured banks to deny services to businesses they did not like. Gun dealers, payday lenders, tobacco shops. The government did not pass a law. They just leaned on the banks. And the banks complied, because banks are regulated entities. They need their licenses. They need their access to the Fed. So they do what they are told. And if the government decides that precious metals dealers are a threat to financial stability, they can shut them down without passing a single law. They just lean on the banks. And the banks comply. Now let me show you the smoking gun. Let me show you the document that proves this is coordinated. In October 2024, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, also known as FinCEN, issued a new advisory. The title was Advisory on Illicit Use of Precious Metals and Stones. The document is 73 pages long, and buried on page 47 is this sentence. Quote, financial institutions should apply enhanced due diligence to customers engaged in high-volume or high-frequency precious metals transactions. Enhanced due diligence. That is code for surveillance. That is code for blocking transactions. That is code for treating you like a criminal just because you want to buy silver. And this advisory was sent to every bank in the United States. Every credit union, every payment processor, and they were told to comply. No debate, no appeal, just comply. And here is the thing. This advisory was issued in October, and the first reports of declined transactions started appearing in November. 1 month later. That is not a coincidence. That is cause and effect. FinCEN issues the advisory. The banks implement the policy. And retail precious metals buyers start getting blocked. And the timeline matches perfectly. October advisory, November declines, December escalation, January crisis. This is a coordinated rollout, and it is accelerating. Now, let me talk about the implications. Let me talk about what this means for you. Because if you cannot buy silver with a credit card, what are your options? Cash? Sure. You can drive to a local coin shop and pay cash. But local coin shops have limits, they have premiums, and they report transactions over $10,000 to the IRS. So if you want to buy size, if you want to buy meaningful quantities, you are going to hit a wall. Peer-to-peer? Maybe, but peer-to-peer is risky. You do not know if you are getting real silver. You do not know if the seller is legitimate, and platforms like PayPal and Venmo are already freezing precious metals transactions. So where does that leave you? It leaves you trapped. It leaves you in dollars. And that is the point. They are not trying to protect you. They are trying to trap you. Let me give you another angle. Let me show you the Bitcoin connection. Because Bitcoin is facing the same pressure. In December 2024, several major banks announced new policies restricting cryptocurrency purchases. Chase, Bank of America, Citi, they said it was about fraud prevention. They said it was about protecting customers. But the real reason is the same as silver. They do not want you leaving the system. Bitcoin and silver are the two primary exits from fiat. If you want to preserve wealth outside the banking system, you buy Bitcoin or you buy silver. And the banks are trying to shut both doors. They cannot kill Bitcoin. The network is too decentralized, but they can make it harder to buy. They can block the on-ramps. They can freeze the exchanges. And that is exactly what they are doing. And the same thing is happening with silver. They cannot confiscate your silver, not yet, but they can make it impossible to acquire. And if they succeed, the only people who will have silver are the people who already own it. Everyone else will be stuck in dollars, and when the dollar collapses, they will be wiped out. Now let me show you the math. Let me show you what is at stake. The M2 money supply in the United States is $21 trillion. That is every dollar in circulation, every checking account, every savings account. Now, let us compare that to the total value of all the silver in the world. There are approximately 2 billion ounces of silver available for investment. At $30 per ounce, that is $60 billion. Do you see the problem? $60 billion in silver. $21 trillion in M2. That is a ratio of 350 to 1. If just 1% of the dollars in the system tried to convert into silver, there would not be enough silver. The price would have to go up. How much? Let us do the math. 1% of 21 trillion is $210 billion. Divide that by 2 billion ounces. That gives you a price of $105 per ounce, and that is just 1%. If 5% tried to convert, the price would be $525 per ounce. If 10% tried to convert, the price would be $1,050 per ounce. This is not speculation. This is arithmetic, and the banks know this, and that is why they are blocking the exits. Let me give you a real-world example. Let me show you what happens when everyone tries to exit at once. In March 2020, when COVID hit, the gold and silver markets experienced a liquidity crisis. The paper price of silver dropped to $12 per ounce, but you could not buy physical silver anywhere. The dealers were sold out. The mints were shut down. The premiums exploded to $10 over spot. So the paper price was $12, but the real price was $22. That is an 83% premium. Why? Because paper and physical had decoupled. The COMEX was trading contracts. But nobody could deliver metal, and the people who owned physical refused to sell at $12 because they knew it was a lie. And the same thing is happening now. The paper price is $30, but the dealers are charging $39. That is a 30% premium, and it is going to get worse because supply is not increasing, demand is increasing. And the banks are trying to choke off the demand by blocking purchases. Now let me talk about the international implications, because this is not just a US problem. This is a Western problem. In Canada, reports are emerging of banks blocking precious metals purchases. In the UK, the same. In Australia, the same. This is a coordinated effort by Western central banks to prevent capital flight into hard assets. But at the same time, the BRICS nations are doing the opposite. Russia is buying gold. China is buying silver. India is buying gold. Saudi Arabia just announced they are diversifying reserves into commodities. The BRICS nations are preparing for a new monetary system, and that system is not based on the dollar. It is based on gold and commodities. And when that system launches, the dollar is going to collapse. And the people who are trapped in dollars are going to lose everything. And the banks know this. And that is why they are blocking your silver purchase. Because they need you to hold dollars until the end. They need you to be the bag holder. Let me give you another historical example. In 1923, the Weimar Republic experienced hyperinflation. The German mark became worthless. People were burning cash for heat because it was cheaper than firewood. But the people who owned gold and silver survived. They preserved their wealth. And when the dust settled, they were the new wealthy class. The same thing happened in Zimbabwe in 2008. The same thing happened in Venezuela in 2017. And the same thing is going to happen in the United States. And the people who own hard assets will survive. And the people who are trapped in fiat will be wiped out. And the banks are doing everything they can to keep you in fiat until it is too late. Now, let me address the counter-argument. Let me address what the skeptics will say. They will say, this is paranoia. Banks decline transactions all the time. It is just fraud prevention. And to that I say, show me the data. Show me the pattern. Because the data shows that this is not random. This is systematic. This is targeting a specific asset class. And the timing is not random. This is happening right now because the system is breaking right now. The repo market is seizing up. The bond market is collapsing. The dollar is losing reserve status. And the elites are trying to prevent the stampede. They are trying to trap you in the burning building. And the door is precious metals. And they are locking it. Let me give you one more data point. Let me show you the inventory levels. As of January 1st, 2025, the COMEX reported silver inventories of 320 million ounces. That sounds like a lot. But let me put it in context. The COMEX trades 150 million ounces per day in paper contracts. So the entire inventory could be claimed in 2 days of trading. 2 days. And what happens if everyone demands delivery? What happens if the paper market breaks? The COMEX has force majeure clauses. They can settle in cash. They do not have to deliver metal. And if that happens, the paper price becomes meaningless. And the only price that matters is the physical price. And the physical price is going to explode. Let me walk you through the endgame. Let me show you how this plays out. The banks continue blocking silver purchases. Retail buyers get frustrated. They give up. They stay in dollars. Meanwhile, institutional buyers and foreign governments continue accumulating physical silver. The supply dwindles. The premiums widen. The COMEX inventories drop. And then one day, someone demands delivery. A big player, a sovereign wealth fund, a central bank, and the COMEX cannot deliver. They invoke force majeure. They settle in cash, and the paper market collapses. The price explodes. And everyone who was blocked from buying silver at $30 is now trying to buy at $100, or $200, or $500. And the dealers have no inventory. And the people who own silver refuse to sell. And the price keeps going up. And the banks that blocked your purchase are the same banks that are insolvent because their bond portfolios are underwater. And the Federal Reserve has to choose between saving the banks or saving the dollar, and they choose the banks, and they print trillions of dollars, and the dollar collapses. And the people who own silver are the new wealthy class, and everyone else is wiped out. This is not fiction. This is not conspiracy theory. This is the logical conclusion of the policies that are being implemented right now. The blocking of silver purchases is not about fraud prevention. It is about capital controls. It is about trapping you in a dying currency. And if you do not see this, if you do not understand what is happening, you are going to be blindsided. You are going to wake up one day and realize that you had a chance to escape. You had a chance to buy silver at $30, and your bank blocked the transaction. And now silver is $300, and you cannot afford it. And your dollars are worthless, and your wealth is gone. So what do? What is the move? The first move is to understand that this is real. This is not paranoia. This is happening. The second move is to find a way around the controls. Pay cash, use a different bank, use a credit union, use a local dealer, use peer-to-peer platforms that have not been shut down yet. The third move is to act now. Do not wait. Do not assume you will have time, because the door is closing, the controls are tightening, and once they lock the door, you are trapped. The fourth move is to tell people. Share this information, because the mainstream media will not, the banks will not, the government will not. It is up to you to spread the word. And the fifth move is to prepare for what is coming, because the collapse is not a future event, it is a present event. It is unfolding right now, and the people who see it early are the people who survive. This is the reality. Your bank is blocking your silver purchase because they know the dollar is dying, and they do not want you to escape. They want you trapped in fiat until the end. And if you let them trap you, you will lose everything. So the question is, Are you going to fight for your financial freedom, or are you going to comply and accept the bag? Because that is the choice, and the clock is ticking.